were just acting to break up, and all my friends started to mock him. I laughed with them, and now, have you ever been in a situation where your friends made fun of your significant other? I can't believe that I am now a divorcee just because I laughed when my friends were mocking my husband. Maybe I was wrong to laugh. I know that maybe I should have reprimanded my friends instead of laughing, but did I deserve to be divorced and left with a broken heart and regrets? I had never thought that one day I would find myself being one of my alpha husband's brutal revenge. You know, when you are too carefree, you end up doing things that would ruin your life and the second party's life. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just having fun, but I guess the fun had me instead. A very small mistake took me back to the hellhole I thought I had left. I regret the day I made that mistake. My name is Matilda Meyer, female 42, and my husband is Philip Johnson, male 45. My husband and I lived a happy life with our 3-year-old daughter. I met my husband when I was a college student. We were both in the business department and had many overlapping classes, and we naturally became friends. You know, I never understood how I became friends with him, as he was always cheerful and popular with everyone. We began dating in our sophomore year and started living together 3 years into our working lives. From that time, I began to feel like I want to be with this person forever. So we rented a slightly larger, beautiful room when we moved in together. The time we spent discussing things like sunlight, kitchen positions, and furniture designs was also a lot of fun, and I still remember it occasionally. Later, we got married and were blessed with a beloved daughter 2 years after. Our daughter is very active and good at communicating with other children, even at a young age. She can invite various children to play together. As I said earlier, I am shy, so she probably takes after her father. Both my daughter and husband have beautiful smiles, and people naturally gather around them. My husband joined his father's company, and now he has taken over as CEO. At first, people questioned if he got a job through connections, and it was tough for him. But watching his honest and constant effort, people's perception of him gradually changed. When my daughter started daycare, the mothers living nearby who had children of the same age taught me various things. Thanks to them, even the shy me was blessed with mom friends at daycare. We've been living in the same place since we moved in together. But one day, because of my husband's situation, we had to move and our daughter had to go to a new daycare. It was sad to leave the town that we had so many good friends in, but it couldn't be helped. We were determined to do our best in the new place as a family of 3. And I was a bit worried if my daughter, who had suddenly changed to daycare, would actually fit in well in the new one. But my daughter did go to daycare happily even after the change. Seeing her making friends so easily in the new place made me impressed. It seemed like my worries about her fitting in were actually not necessary. On the other hand, it wasn't easy to make new mom friends at the new daycare. It seemed like I was the one who should have been worried. So one day our 3rd anniversary was approaching. I was the happiest woman. I mean, it was by grace that we had reached our 3rd year anniversary. My wish was for us to reach 10 years at least in our marriage. Little did I know that it would actually end at 3 years. So since our anniversary was coming, I had planned to make an anniversary dinner party. Philip and I didn't have many friends, only our friends from college and the mom friends that I had got from my daughter's daycare. I wanted it to be a surprise anniversary, but my husband beat me to it because he actually had the same plan in mind, so he presented it to me. The anniversary day came. My husband had taken our daughter to his mother since they asked for her to visit. Our love was so precious and pure. I just loved how we loved each other and did everything together. Philip and I had our fair share of ups and downs, highs and lows, but we have never given up our love. Even if there were things that were testing our marriage, we would always manage to get through everything. Yes, my husband has a short temper and easily gets irritated and angry, but he knew how to control it. It all began innocently enough, as these things often do. Our friend group had always been known for our playful banter and light-hearted pranks and jokes, but little did I know that one careless joke would unravel everything I held dear. It was a typical Saturday evening, and we were gathered at our usual spot, my marital home's backyard, sipping beers and swapping stories. As the laughter flowed freely, someone brought up the topic of superstitions. That's when it happened, the catalyst for the chaos that followed. In a moment of sheer spontaneity, I blurted out a ridiculous idea. Wouldn't it be hilarious if we staged a fake breakup between me and Philip just to mess with everyone? I chuckled, thinking it would be nothing more than a fleeting moment of amusement. Mind you, that time I was so caught up in the engagement with our friends to a point that I didn't see my husband's unhappy face. But the idea caught fire among our group. Before I knew it, we were all huddled together, brainstorming ways to make the fake breakup seem authentic. We planned every detail meticulously, from dramatic social media posts to tearful phone calls to friends. We decided to put our plan into action at that moment. My friends instructed me on what to do, so I did it. I then pretended to be distraught, posting cryptic messages on social media about heartbreak and betrayal. My friends and Philip's friends played along, offering comfort to our concerned friends and family members who were asking what had happened because they didn't know about the game. Some people were giving assumptions on what had happened. The game was full of fun, but little did I know that playing it was like playing with my marriage because it didn't end very well, and I regret ever accepting the challenge. At first, it was all in good fun. Our friends fell for the ruse hook, line, and sinker, offering sympathy and support. Imagine this. You're hosting a party at your house with your friends, having a good time, when suddenly they start mocking your husband. Instead of defending him, I found myself laughing along with them, not wanting to seem like I can't take a joke. My friends were mocking my husband, saying a lot of things about him on social media. Some say how my husband was a forward coward in college. Some were mocking his dressing style, saying that I had found him with no taste and sense of dressing and I helped him change his boring lifestyle. The mocking started from commenting on social media until one of my friends joked about how my husband was a mommy's boy in college and the fact that he had literally peed himself during the freshers' year orientation when he was asked to kiss some girl that was his secret crush. That took me to fits. It was so hilarious and funny, so I laughed and even asked my husband what they had said was true. But I didn't get any response or amused emotion, maybe. My friends continued making fun of my husband, teasing him about his quirks and all that jazz. And you know what? I couldn't help but chuckle along with them, thinking it was all in good fun. But little did I know my husband was silently seething, hurt by my betrayal at that moment. As the night went on, I noticed he had disappeared from the party without a word. He didn't even bid a goodbye to his friends. I didn't know what the matter was. Panic set in as I searched everywhere for him, realizing the gravity of the situation. I searched high and low, but he was nowhere to be found. It was like he had just decided to pull a Houdini on me. And let me tell you, trying to explain his sudden disappearance to my friends was no walk in the park. They were just as puzzled as I was, only to find out that he had gone out after he saw that I was enjoying the mocking moment that my friends were busy making. But as the days passed, I began to realize the gravity of what we had done. Philip grew distant, his once warm and affectionate demeanor replaced by a cold detachment. He avoided me, barely speaking more than a few words at a time. I tried to brush it off as part of the act, but deep down I knew something had changed between us. Finally, one evening, Philip sat me down for a serious conversation. His eyes were filled with hurt and disappointment as he confessed that he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. He couldn't understand how I could joke about something as sacred as our relationship, and allowing my friends to mock him like they did. And instead of reprimanding them and putting them in their place, I laughed with them. I didn't understand why he was so worked up because the game instructions were clear. It was just a game, meaning we were just joking, but he took it to heart. We had a heated argument about what I had said during the party and what Mia, one of my friends, had said about him. It even affected our daughter. You know that kids sense tension, so my daughter also sensed the tension, and it wasn't nice. Philip was really at me. Even if I tried to apologize, he wouldn't care about what I was saying. He only cared about his daughter, and that was hurting deeply. I even decided to be a stay-home mom just because I was respecting him, since he wanted me to be a housewife. But we had spoken about that and came to an agreement that I would do only remote jobs. And he decided to do such an evil act on me. What did I do wrong to him? The way I was shuddered and disappointed led to not being a fully present mother to our daughter. Philip became like my housemate because we were no longer sleeping in one bedroom and we were like strangers. Days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months. So one of those days, Philip came back very early from work and he didn't look too well. I tried asking him what was going on, but he didn't tell me. Instead, he looked at me like I was the most disgusting thing he had ever laid his eyes on. I got really confused because I had thought that we had forgiven each other for the game that happened during our anniversary party, not knowing that the bastard actually found out that I had posted about our marriage and said I was no longer with him because of a game. So I asked him again, getting worried because he was not even happy to see our daughter, so I was wondering what may be the problem. Instead of answering, he just threw his phone at me. Then he started shouting, which is what I did despite him. He shouts like he is reprimanding a child, and that usually takes us to an argument. I looked at the phone that he had thrown at me, and I got the shock of my life. I couldn't even argue with him or deny it because the pictures, the memes, and the GIFs that were made by people on social media were before my eyes. I didn't know what to say, nor do you know. I tried apologizing to him, but he wasn't having it. He wanted me gone. He told me right in my face that he doesn't want to see me anymore, saying that I had made him a fool for far too long. I spent the whole week in the hospital because of the state that my mind was in. I had been getting sick every now and then, only to find out that I had lost my unborn child that I didn't even know about. My mind and heart was shuttered. A day before I got discharged from the hospital, my husband's lawyer came to see him. He left another envelope that I didn't even bother opening, but I took it home with me the next day. So when I had settled well at home, I remembered the envelope and opened it. The things the envelope contained left me in awe. My heart stopped for a moment. In the envelope, there were pictures of me and my male friend kissing each other, which is something that had happened a long time ago when he was still asking me out. It looked like we were dating. I couldn't believe how my husband had got the pictures. I didn't understand why he would send his lawyer to deliver the pictures to me, and I saw nothing wrong in what I did. In my world or mind, kissing was not and should not be considered as cheating. Besides, we were not dating because we started dating a week after. I mean, no feelings were attached. It was fun, nothing else. So after the pictures were delivered, the lawyer called me again, saying the divorce process had to come to a final decision and requested to see me along with my husband on a certain date. I honored his request and went to meet up with him and my husband. The only thing that made me agree to the meeting was because I had a lot of questions to ask my husband. One fateful day, the day of the meeting came and my husband was really divorcing me. And his reasons for the divorce were that he had lost trust in me, and I had not been faithful to our marriage. I didn't understand how I was not faithful when the kissing happened way before we even dated. The fact that I had allowed my friends to humiliate my husband in front of everyone on our anniversary celebration day. I thought he understood that it was just a game. It didn't mean anything. I tried defending myself on the mocking and pictures case, and the lawyer told me exchanging saliva or kissing another person outside my marriage is considered cheating, even if I had thought it was an innocent friendship kiss. But the fact that I had spent time and kissed another person in the name of friendship is cheating. I didn't understand how the lawyer could say that I had gone outside my marriage while I was not even dating Philip when everything happened. I begged him to forgive me. I cried and acted like a lunatic, but he was just not bugging. I didn't know that and never thought of it as cheating because me and the guy were only friends. I didn't take him as another thing and never thought of him that way. I love my husband so much, but I guess the only thing I never did was respect my wedding vows and my husband. I didn't know, okay. One moment I was happy. The next I was devastated by an argument that we had about the joke. Well, a mockery that took place on our supposed-to-be special day and found comfort in alcohol. That alcohol led me to do something that I had thought I was doing it just for fun. I guess nothing stays in the dark, but I don't think it should have been a problem because it was something that had happened in the past. I felt so ashamed, doing things in the name of fun sometimes leads us to our downfall. I didn't know that laughing at what Mia said would actually be the end of my marriage. So I ended up signing the papers, meaning I was actually letting go of my husband, our love, our vows, and our family. I asked the lawyer what I was benefiting from the divorce, and he told me that I would be getting nothing rather than the house I was living in. So I asked my husband to unfreeze my accounts, and he told me that my accounts were fine. It was just that they didn't have any money. He then gave me a promise that sounded like a threat that he would destroy me just like I had destroyed our marriage and broke his heart. And I knew he was crazy, but I had never thought it was to that extent. How could he do something so evil to the mother of his child? As I had thought that was all, he then dropped a very large and a killer bombshell to me, saying that he was taking full custody of our daughter, and that I was not fit enough to be a mother, so he was taking full responsibility to our daughter. A few weeks later, he filed for full custody of our daughter, stating that I was not fit to be a mother. On top of that, he blocked all my bank cards that I had opened to put some savings for our daughter. Well, I didn't know about that until I tried swapping the card in the petrol station, so I called my advisor, and I was actually told that my cards were blocked. When I got home, I found out that he had actually taken my clothes and threw them outside. The doors were locked and changed, meaning I no longer had access to the house anymore. Mind you, that time I didn't have gas in my car, so I didn't know how I was going to get home from our marital home. I mean, didn't he or the lawyer state that I was not getting anything but only the house that I was living in? I didn't understand why Philip would do this while he was the one who signed that I would be getting the house. He should have mentioned that he no longer needed me in the house, not to state that I am getting the house. That meant that I had to go back to my hometown. Mind you, that time I had nothing on my name. My personal bank accounts were flushed, and the other one that I had thought would help me at least try to live until I get maybe a job was also blocked. For what, I also don't know. Philip's revenge or punishment was way too harsh that I couldn't even handle it myself. My ex-husband was evil and psychopathic. The signs were there, but I didn't pay any attention to them. I was so much in love and thought I had found my soulmate, but I found my worst nightmare and downfall. I couldn't believe that he did all that just because of a lousy kiss and the fact that I had laughed when he was being mocked. It wasn't like I was dating the guy, but he destroyed my life, all in the name of revenge for a kiss and mockery. Few months later, I had to try and fix my life bit by bit. Philip did a number on me, so it wasn't easy having to start afresh everything. Fortunately, I found a job as a waitress in one of the restaurants nearby. It was not easy, but I had to try and pick up life and better myself. I had no one but myself, so it was time to focus on me and do me. And the good thing was that Philip's parents had allowed me to see my daughter and spend time with her. I prayed every day for karma to visit Philip one day. It was a wake-up call for me, making me realize the importance of standing by your partner, especially in moments of vulnerability. So if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember to choose loyalty and love over temporary laughter, because you never know the impact it might have on your relationship. I vowed to myself to never fall in love again or have a crush on someone. I have learnt my lesson. I had realized that allowing my friends to mock my husband or my ex-husband and even laughed when they did was actually something that I shouldn't have done. Instead of standing up for him, I did something unexpected. I laughed along with them. But little did I know that would be the breaking point for my husband. As soon as I chuckled at one of their jokes, he lost his cool and vanished into the night. I was left feeling guilty and regretful for not defending him when he needed me the most. It was a harsh lesson learned that night. Sometimes laughter can hurt more. I should have known better than to allow anyone to mock or embarrass someone else because I knew how it's like to be mocked and laughed at. I mean, my cousin was also mocked when we were younger. She was mocked by one of our male cousins because of her skin color, comparing her with other people. She couldn't take it as a joke. It came as a very offensive thing to her, to a point that she was sad. She left the room that we were all gathering in. We had thought that she had gone to sleep, but when I went to her bedroom to check on her, I found a letter that she wrote with a heavy heart. Then she tried to commit suicide. Luckily, the doctors were able to flush out all the pills that she had consumed. That was the most traumatic thing I had ever experienced and seen. I don't know how I forgot about that and defended my husband. Was I too comfortable? A lot was going on in my life. I had gone to a very depressing state. Not only because I had destroyed my marriage, but also because I was actually denied any form of custody over my daughter. You know, that case took me from point 100 to point 0 of my life. My daughter is my everything, so I don't know how Philip thought I was going to live without my daughter. The way I was depressed, I found myself drowning in alcohol. I was drinking like I had no future or whatsoever. I must say that the situation that I was in was saddening. On the other hand, Philip was making by all means to make sure that I was suffering because of him. You know when a person says they were drowning in deep, muddy waters? I was that person. I was drowning in muddy water and I couldn't swim. I resorted to finding closure in alcohol. I became what my mother was when she was divorced by my father. At that time, I understood why my mother was an alcoholic. My life was down and out. I had lost the only person who showered me with love and care and gave me a very beautiful daughter. Now I had lost that daughter plus something that was so dear in my heart. I was really depressed and wished to just go far away where there was no troubles and sorrows. 6 months later, my mother told me to stop having a pity party because it will not bring back the things that I had lost, including my daughter. But instead, it would take me straight to the morgue, and when that happens, I would not be able to fight nor see my daughter ever again. Those words made me think again about life, so I took the money that my mother had offered me to start something, but I wasn't sure of what to do, so I used it to fix myself. I went to the rehabilitation center for 6 months while attending AA meetings when I was inside. By the time I came out, I was a whole new person. I had discovered what my worth was and what I wanted. I started by asking for at least a joint custody of my daughter, which I got by the grace of God against Philip's will. I went through a very tough depression phase for almost a year, and I had thought I was going to lose my life in the process. Everything was too much for me to handle. But there was one thing I was proud of that I had done, and that was saving myself from the selfish bastard. I was glad that my mother came through for me when Philip threw out my clothes. However, from the ashes of despair, a newfound strength emerged. I resolved to heed the warnings of those wise enough to know better, to never put my safety and security on the line. With unwavering determination, I transformed the gaping hole within me into a source of motivation, giving rise to a vigilant and astute version of myself. I decided to start therapy, which is the first route to the healing journey, right? I had to make peace with everything for my own good. My mother found me a therapist that did house calls, and I was grateful for that because I didn't want to face the world, you know. I was somehow scared that Philip would see me or temper with my car tires. This time it showed that he was just obsessed with destroying my life. I couldn't leave my daughter alone. The therapy sessions went on for months because sometimes I would not want to open up, but I eventually got help and decided to stand up for myself. Philip had gone AWOL. No one knew where he was, but wherever he was, he managed to destroy my life and make me suffer. Philip knew that I was nothing without him because I had left my job to become a housewife. But now that things have changed, I have to look for something. I am the person who made rules for myself and never allowed anyone or anything to change that. I lived my life for me without looking for validation from others. But when I fell in love with Philip, all of that changed. I lost myself. I became his puppet, his submissive wife. I followed his rules and did everything the way he wanted to. All because of love and being committed to the relationship, even though it was not very much toxic, but I stayed and held on to the hot steel even when it had started to burn my skin. It's not easy being in a relationship whereby you have to compromise yourself just because you want to make your partner happy. It has never worked like that. I know that some would be surprised if I were to say that I still love my ex-husband and I miss him so much every day. My heart wanted me to fight for our relationship and find a common solution to the problem. But why try to help a person who doesn't need help? It was like he was somehow possessed by a controlling demon, so when it was in active mode of controlling him, he would want to be in control also. Philip was like a person who had multiple personality disorder, even though I can't and couldn't confirm it, but the way he was doing things, his manipulative and controlling tendencies seemed like he was pushed by something or someone to do it, to satisfy it. One thing I regret about myself was that I didn't or never gave myself enough time to learn more about Philip. I mean, it didn't take us too long to get married, from being friends to being boyfriend and girlfriend to being husband and wife. All of those stages happened within 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Everything happened too fast and I was blindly in love to notice anything on our dating stage. Though according to my own knowledge and perspective, I don't know what I was doing. I would say it was being ungrateful and not being able to be patient with my husband. I wish things were done differently. Yes, it's too late, but I regret every stupid decision that I had made. Now I have lost everything and there is really no one to blame but myself. I don't know how I can fix all of this and get forgiveness for myself. I know everything showed that I did everything willingly, even though I couldn't remember that moment, but only God knows the truth. I didn't know that just one joke would actually land me where I am now. My heart had been stripped bare, devoid of the memories and belongings that defined my existence. Each room in my heart was an empty shell, devoid of life and purpose. Panic engulfed me as I realized the gravity of my actions. Desperation clawed at my throat and my heart pounded, sending tremors throughout my body. Unfathomable regret seeped through my veins as I finally discerned the reason behind the tragedy that befell my once cherished sanctuary. My foolish decision to ignore my husband's admonishments had paved the way for my husband to leave me and find someone else better. Every valuable possession, each priceless memento had vanished in an instant, leaving only an indelible emptiness behind. Broken, I sunk to the floor, tears streaming down my face, mingling with the remnants of my shattered dreams. The consequences of my recklessness echoed mercilessly in my mind, urging me to reconsider my choices. It was a sobering realization. My actions had consequences, and the price I paid was immense. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The memory of that fateful night haunted me, serving as a perpetual reminder of the naivety that had marked my path. The love of my life, the only person who had shown me genuine love and care, never returned, and I was left to my own devices to rebuild my life from the ruins. It always breaks my heart whenever I think of the way my relationship with Philip ended. I miss him, and if I was to be given a chance to rectify my wrongs to save my relationship with Philip, I would. Even though I still think he took a very dumb and cowardly move to end our relationship. He should have waited for me to come back so we would talk about everything and find a solution to our problems. I now knew that the story he told me about was true, and it had been haunting me ever since. Ever since that day, I still get shivers down my spine when I think about what Mia had said about my husband in front of him and on social media. I don't like them at the moment. I no longer want to see myself associating with any of them. They had taken the game way too far. I know that I shouldn't have procrastinated in the prank game because I am a married woman, or maybe I was. I should have thought of the consequences and outcomes of that stupid game. I know that I deserve every punishment Philip gives me, but do I deserve to be punished to have my daughter? I no longer want to visit her at her Nana's house, but I want her to come back and stay with me as her mother. Is that too much to ask for? Not only did Philip take away my daughter, but he also did something that I had never thought he would do, especially to me. You know the pain of going to the stores because your mother had asked you to buy some household items, but when you get out of the store, you literally see a big truck repossessing your car. Okay, I know that it was bought by Philip's money, but did he have to be this childish and make his baby mama suffer just because of a laugh and a stupid photo of the past? That time I had to call my mother and tell her what had happened because I had no money under my name, so she was supposed to get me at least an Uber back home. I would understand if maybe I had cheated or I was already in a relationship with him when I kissed my male friend. But we were not even an item at that time. Or maybe him taking me out meant that I was dating him? Philip didn't think things through. His short temper will be his downfall because he does things without thinking them through. I loved my ex-husband. Heck, I still love him. But sometimes the way he handles things is just a red flag for someone who is the heir of the house. You know, when we planned the game, everyone was happy and agreed to it. I don't know when the problem started with Philip. Okay, the time I proposed the fake separation game, Philip was busy engaging with one of his close friends, so they didn't pay much attention to it. We did what we thought was fun, not knowing that I was only destroying my marriage. Philip got a clue of what was going on when Lisa, one of the daycare mothers who are my friends, called for Philip's attention. Then she asked a silly question. Okay, cool. Philip laughed at that, but when our friend from college dished out his flops, he didn't find it funny. Maybe Dora, a friend from college, had gone too far because she was dishing out only embarrassing things about Philip. I know that I shouldn't have participated and contributed my laugh, but I couldn't help it. Then Philip lost it. That was the only fault that I had, but he chose to destroy my life and my reputation just like that. I would say that Philip was just being a crybaby, but I forgot the fact that I knew how it was like to be mocked, more especially in front of people who don't even know you that well. I really hope I have done things in a different way. Am I being a fool or naive if I say I miss Philip so much and I know that even our daughter misses him too? I had been thinking of visiting him in prison, but I don't know what I would say to him when I get there. Do you think I handled the whole situation better, or I was a coward and naive to allow Chris to destroy my life like that? Please advise me, so please help me find a way to approach both families about this issue. What do you say I should do? Please help me. Please help. I left my husband in the middle of the night because I was tired of his non-existent big dreams and goals. But now karma has gotten me hard, and he has made it big in life. He has had a huge glow-up, and now he wants to divorce me and ruin my life after I threw divorce papers at him. I don't think it's wrong for me to have wanted to share in this new success of his, but 2 years is a long time for two people to grow apart. Help me here, guys. This is complicated, but I still need help regardless, and I'm sure I'll be able to get some help here. My husband has become very successful, and he's rubbing it all in my face. He even has a girlfriend now, and it doesn't sit right with me that this new woman is the one that's going to be enjoying all of his wealth. Yes, I want him back. Am I wrong for getting tired of supporting my husband's big dreams and leaving him because I didn't want to keep funding his business ideas? I don't think so, but my husband feels otherwise. My name is Brenda, and I'm a 26-year-old businesswoman. I sell female clothes, and I own a store for it. I've been married for 5 years, but we have been separated for 2 years in total. The name of my husband is Gregory, and he's 30 years old. Things were not always bad from the start of our marriage. We were both working at first, and things were going well till he lost his job a few days before our wedding. His company decided to let off some workers, and unfortunately, he was one of them. Of course, he told me about it before we got married, and I told him I didn't mind. Of course, I said that because I thought we had a bright future together. Before he lost his job, he earned a lot of money, and I was so sure that I was getting married to a very rich man. I had no idea that things would end up going bad, and I would regret my decision at the end of the day. After the wedding, it was still all blossom and bliss because we still had some part of the money he saved before he was sacked. Things didn't just go bad straight away. It was more like a gradual process, a very painful gradual process to be precise. At first, when he didn't find a job, I wasn't bothered at all because I honestly believed he would get a job one way or another. But Gregory didn't find a job, if rather he didn't search for a job. I don't know how to explain this, but I'll just say it as it is. I think he got PTSD from getting let off at work, and so he just started to dispose of the thought of working for someone and being under their mercy. I was patient for the first 6 months, but when I realized that he made no plans to get things right, I decided to take matters into my own hands and start asking him the right questions. I found myself asking my own husband why he was still unemployed and didn't look for a job. Each time I brought up the topic, he would explain to me that he was setting up his own business idea and didn't want to be that kind of situation where he was going to get fired for a job all over again. Did I get where he was coming from? Yes, to an extent I could understand why he would want to build up a business from scratch by himself. Was I ready to be patient with him? No, I was not. I was just 21 when I got married. No part of me prepared to be broke in just the first 6 months of getting married to a guy that I believed was loaded enough to take care of me. I couldn't believe that I was already having money talks with my husband in just the first 6 months of our marriage. It wasn't the kind of life I had envisioned for myself, so it was hard to accept the reality he had been trying to enforce on me. At that point, there wasn't really anything lacking in the house, and there was more than enough food that would take us a long time. He wasn't absolutely broke by then either, and we could still afford to go to one of 2 dates, but things weren't as smooth as I initially thought they would be. But I decided to be patient for some time and just see where things would go. Gradually, I began to realize just how much of a mistake I made. I'm in the first year of our marriage. Things were still the same, and he just kept going on meetings with his friends, staring at his computer all day and telling me the big business goals he had. I could not believe that a girl like me was in that situation, and to be honest, I was very angry. I only remembered marrying a man who worked and actually earned, so it was just too abnormal to see him at home while I went to work. He never asked me to bring in money to keep up with expenses. That was never a problem, but I had a problem with the fact that he didn't give me money for shopping or personal upkeep. I couldn't buy new clothes or go out as often as I wanted. He would just let me use my own money to take care of myself. I wasn't even saving money at all. Things were that difficult, and it was just the first year. Gregory would only encourage me with words like he was putting things in place and he had a plan. Those were just the words I heard almost every single day, and I got tired of them. Anyone in my position would get tired of it too. I remember getting married, not getting into problems, so I had to mentally tell myself to be patient. So after the first year of our marriage, I actually thought things were turning around for the better because of how serious Gregory became. He spoke to some of his friends and they had conversations about taking up plans to start something up. I never really cared to listen long enough to know what they were planning for. I just always wanted to make sure that they were working for the betterment of our life. I still kept my job and made money, but I didn't like spending it on myself. I mean, I'm a businesswoman, but I never imagined funding my own business when I had a husband to do that for me. Eventually, I got tired of waiting all over again and called Gregory on our second marriage anniversary to ask him why things were still going slow. Gregory got very angry and accused me of not being patient enough. That's another red flag that I noticed from him. I just couldn't understand why my own husband was angry because I was asking him about his finances. Gregory always has this alpha male energy, and that's one of the reasons his ego never allowed him to apply for jobs. He wanted to do it on his own. Whenever I asked him why he was turning down so many opportunities, he said he didn't want to get surprised by another company just like his former company had surprised him. Again, he still had money that we used to run the house, but I was still worried that I wasn't learning the life I had envisioned. Instead of talking about vacations, trips, and upgrading our house, we were talking about business goals when we didn't even have a business yet. Apart from that, I was also low-key scared because I knew that at some point, he would end up asking me for money, and I just didn't want that at all. The thought of him asking me for money or help didn't sit well with me, so I got eager for him to get a job. 2 years of marriage with so much trouble at that time was just so suffocating to me. He had goals he spoke about, but I got tired of hearing about goals and just wanted to see the results. You all should just try seeing things from my own perspective. I didn't sign up for that kind of life, so why should I even try living it? My patience was very slim, and it started to show because I stopped hiding it completely. Gregory and I got into an argument almost every single day. It was just the same routine of him coming into the bedroom after locking himself in the study room with some files and his computer, and then I'll start to ask him when the results of his laziness would yield results. He had the same answer of telling me I had no reason to worry because he still had money on him, but I called it nonsense. I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to love life, and I needed a husband that would give me that. Another thing that always hurt me was the fact that he was never really ready to listen to me when I spoke about everything. He'd just watch me and say nothing about it. When I said nothing, he didn't try to apologize for putting me through all the worry and stress. Yes, I always saw him doing things and working at the study, but I needed to see the results. Big instead of seeing the results, he'd just tell me his business goals, and to be honest, I never cared. So I started staying late at my shop. Of course, I got tired of the routine and needed a break. It just always made me angry to come back home and see my husband in the same place I left him. Is that the normal way to leave? To come home and see your husband staring at a computer with a pen in his hand, which he uses to write down stuff? Is that work? Just drafting out goals without showing results? I mean, it had been over 2 years by then, and I was over it. I was tired of waiting for him. I was upset and I was drained, but physically and mentally. I couldn't even stand the sight of his files and business plans whenever he tried to show them to me. He always tried to carry me along with his progress at home, so the only way to escape was to stay late at my shop and wait for him to sleep off. I didn't cheat on him while we were together. Let me make that clear. I didn't even cheat while I stayed late at the shop. I had that much respect for him in our marriage, but it was not enough for the both of us. I actually filed for divorce and got the papers ready because I thought it would make him wake up. Fast forward to one day when he refused to sleep before I came, and then he asked me why I came home late. I tried lying at first, but he was angry and persistent, so I just told him that I was tired of him being jobless. Guys, that day it was almost like I unleashed a beast in Gregory. He got so angry that he almost broke the TV. His veins were on his face, it was that bad. I didn't get why he was the one getting worked up when I should have been the one going through the stress. But at the end of the day, I had no choice than to tell him he was overreacting.
Yeah.
He got angry and accused me of not supporting him when he needed me the most. Yes, he really said that. I mean, why should I support someone that was wasting my time? I was young in my early 20s and had just gotten into marriage. I didn't plan to be anyone's support system. Even if I wanted to be a support system, I need at least see the effort on your end, but from my point of view, Gregory just wanted to waste my time. So that night, he gave me an ultimatum and told me that if I wanted to keep staying out late, then I was looking for trouble in our marriage. I took the papers out of my drawer and threw it at him. He sauced on the floor and barged out of the room without any reaction. He didn't sleep in the bedroom that night, and he didn't sleep in the house. That was what gave me enough time to make my decision. I came to the conclusion that I wanted to leave the narrative for maybe 2 months just to see if he would cave in and go look for a job. I packed my things and left the house before dawn the next day. Barely 3 hours after I left, I got a lot of mixed calls from Gregory. I didn't take his calls, so he sent text messages. I'm those messages. He asked where I went and also asked why I wasn't taking his calls. He told me to cool off and come to the house so we could speak, and also because he had cooled off and was ready to speak to me. I never replied to any of those messages because what I was really waiting for were the results, and as long as he was still in the same place I left him, I wanted to have nothing to do with him. At first I left him because I thought leaving would change his mind, but I later realized that wasn't the case. After 2 months, I realized that there was no progress, so I decided not to go back. He stopped texting me after the first month, so I didn't need to explain anything. My shop is nowhere close to our house, so I didn't come in contact with him. The apartment I moved into was 1 hour away from Gregory's place, so we had no contact. He never showed up at my shop, and I never cared to look for him. After 6 months of separation, I got into a relationship with a guy one of my friends introduced to me. Divorce never crossed my mind because I knew it was a long process that I just wasn't interested in getting myself into. So moving on, I didn't think I needed to get divorced at that time. Since we were not in contact, we also felt like we were already divorced. I completely forgot about the divorce papers and he didn't react it. I didn't hesitate to cheat because I didn't see it as cheating as long as we weren't together anymore. I also imagined that he had someone that he was also with, so I didn't think that I was cheating or doing anything wrong. My affair partner and I didn't have any serious relationship and we broke up sometime after. I stayed single for a while before I got into another relationship. After 1 year, some of Gregory's friends came to my shop and started asking me a lot of questions. They kept asking me why I left the house just like that. It was obvious that they just came on their own because none of them mentioned anything about Gregory asking of me. I didn't ask about it too because I was not ready for that conversation. Gregory's friends and I had a cordial relationship, so it wasn't surprising that they came to ask me to go back to my husband. It was more of a warning rather than an advice, to be honest. They just told me that I must stop being childish and go back before it's too late. All their warnings fell on deaf ears because when I asked them if Gregory had a job yet, they said no. After they left, I made up my mind that my marriage was over, and I had nothing to do with Gregory any longer. I thought it would be a waste of time to wait for someone who had made up his mind not to look for a job to get a job. I wanted more in my life, and Gregory didn't seem to give me what I wanted, so I decided to stay away from him just for my own peace of mind. I resumed my relationship with my affiant partner who had some money and was also working. I didn't move in with him because I didn't want to be exclusive so soon. I had just gotten out of being tied to someone for 2 years, so I didn't want to rush back into the same situation almost immediately. My affair partner earned enough to take me out on the dates I craved, but to be honest, he wasn't exactly as financially stable as Gregory was when he was working. But I made do with what I had and focused on my business. I felt like it was important to be one self-made after all the drama my marriage had shown me. I wanted to expand my business by all means, so I tried to make that happen as fast as possible. But guys, this decision of mine ended up biting me. I'm back because I eventually realized that I made a huge mistake. It's been 2 years of being separated, right? But something crazy has happened right now that's making me rethink all the decisions I made. Can you guys believe that the husband I left with his business goals is now a big businessman? Yes, guy. I just got news 1 week ago that Gregory is now a very successful person. He pitched a business idea or whatever to a big company and launched something with them. I don't know a lot about how it happened, but I know that whatever he had been working on is now extremely successful. Yes, he's actually now a successful man. That means that all those days he stayed at the computer and looked at several piles paid off. He didn't lie about his dreams and his desire to have his own business foundation worked. The fact that he got a big payout and still had shares in a company is wild. I couldn't believe the news when I heard it, guy. It's actually true. Everything feels surreal, but most importantly, I feel like trash. I cannot believe that I left before he made it big. If I was still with him, I would have been the first to find out about this. But right now, I'm literally the last to know about this new advancement of his. And the fact that I was once the first person to know about what happens in his life and now I became the last is heart-wrenching. Do you actually know what's worse? It's the fact that he has a girlfriend now. Yes, Gregory had a girlfriend. I heard that he goes everywhere with her and she is living with him now. Can you believe that? He's still married to me, yet the moment he made it big, he got a girlfriend that had the audacity to live in our matrimonial home. What hurts more is that he never even bothered to tell me he now has money. He hasn't called me since 1 month after I left and he doesn't even care. I can't digest the fact that another woman is enjoying his wealth and success right now. We're still married, so I still have some right over him. I don't think it's completely unreasonable for me to wait for him to come back. Yes, guy, I want him back and I don't know how to go about it. I really need help and anything you do all day will be of help to me. You might ask why I didn't just try to talk to him, right? Well, I actually did try to talk to him, but none of that yielded any good thing. In fact, I ended up embarrassing myself as a result of that. Immediately I heard the news 1 week ago, I decided to go speak to him. I got dressed for the Navy Day and went to his house. Well, it's still my house since we're still married, I guess. Newsflash, he had hired a gatekeeper. We had to fire the last gatekeeper when Gregory listed his job because it was difficult to cope with finances. I thought seeing your ex-husband glow up after you left him only happened in movies until I saw the new car that was parked in Gregory's garage. Well, that cane was a big surprise to me. Even before I left the house, I knew it was one of Gregory's biggest possessions because he bought it while he was still working. He got the house even before we got married. I know that house costs a fortune, so it's something I'm proud of, and I want that house if we eventually get divorced just in case. So like I was saying, I got to the house and knocked on the door. Thankfully, I didn't have those encounters in soap operas where the girlfriend opens the door for the wife. Gregory was the one at home, and he was the one that opened the door after I knocked. He looked very different from the last time I saw him. I'd seen him once or twice since our separation whenever I came to the area, but it had been months since I saw him up close. He was growing a clean beard like all those businessmen. To be honest, Gregory didn't look like he was happy to see me at all. He looked like he hated the sight of me. I got everything but a cold welcome from him. I expected him to close the door immediately, but the first thing he said was, "Get the hell out of my face." Oh my God, I was actually very embarrassed, and I still get chills anytime I remember what happened. The fact that I was no longer welcomed in my own house did not sit well with me at all. I refused to go, and I tried to make him understand that I was there for a good reason, but all my efforts were in vain, and he refused to listen to me. He asked me to get out or else he was going to make sure I embarrassed myself. I asked him if he had forgotten that we were married, and that statement almost landed a hot slap on my face. He almost slapped me, but he held his hand up and squeezed them together. He was on the ground and told me I was as good as dead to him. I told him I was still his wife, and then he told me the divorce papers will soon be sent to me and all he needed was my address. He said he had been waiting 2 years for me to come back so I could get the divorce papers. I couldn't even believe my ears. The fact that he wanted to divorce me after getting successful just screamed selfish. I told him I didn't want a divorce, and he confidently told me that only time would tell. He actually told me not to count my eggs before they hatch. I couldn't even believe that Gregory and I had grown so much apart that he spoke to me with so much bitterness and rudeness. It was beyond heartbreaking, to say the least. I started crying because I couldn't hold it in, but instead of consoling me, he closed the door in my face and locked it from the inside as if he was hiding from a petty thief at his doorstep. I left there with no self-esteem left. Since I came back from that place after getting embarrassed, it's been very hard for me to adapt to everything. I just keep thinking about how he embarrassed me and how obvious it was that he wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. It's not a matter of me being selfish or whatever. I just feel like as his wife, there's a level of respect that I actually deserve from him, but it's become quite clear that he's not ready to show me that respect anytime soon. I'm not okay with him planning to divorce me at all. Is Gregory insane or what? Why does he think he can just divorce me whenever he wants and I'll be okay with it? After wasting 3 years of my life, he thinks that he can just divorce me now that he has made it big. Please, guys, I really need your help because I just can't imagine why he would do this to me. I can't even sleep properly because I keep thinking about how bad the situation is. This man wants absolutely nothing to do with me. I cannot stomach that fact. He had a new car and a girlfriend, and he's living his life just like nothing happened or just like he had never had a wife before. Please help me with whatever advice I can get because it would really go a long way. Thank you all so much. Update. Oh wow, the amount of hats comments I have is wild. I had to double check if I was suddenly a celebrity overnight. I didn't even think that many people would pay attention to my life, but it seems like I thought wrong. Many of you even get the full story or what I've actually been through. I spent a lot of time trying to make you guys understand everything, but no one took time to get it. Instead of getting encouragement, I just got a lot of people that only cared to judge me the wrong way. Well, either way, life still went on and a lot has happened. I regret marrying the kind of husband I married. I regret it with every little finger in my heart because I cannot believe that Gregory was this cruel to me. I actually thought he would consider how I was with him when he was fired, but all that meant nothing to him. Gregory has ruined my life, and I regret marrying him with everything in me. He has divorced me, and he has left me with nothing. I know you might ask, how'd that even be possible, but trust me, it's more than possible, and he did it. Now you know I told you all of his embarrassing me when I went to the house, and how he told me he was going to divorce me, right? I called it nonsense and felt like he was just being dramatic. I mean, what did I get to do that he would want to divorce me when I was with him for all the 2 years he was broke? Right. It made no sense, so I refused to listen to him or take him seriously. That's until I got divorce papers delivered at my doorsteps barely 2 weeks after everything. I initially thought I was just seeing double and I was exaggerating, but guys, the divorce papers were real and they were for me. Of course, I just couldn't take the fall without a fight, no matter how little that fight is. That's why I went to go see him the next day, but I got another embarrassing shock. His girlfriend was at the house by the time I got there, but if I just saw her there without any drama, it would have been bearable, but she was outside bringing big boxes in. Now I heard that she lived with him, but it wasn't something like a full move-in. That's why I had the hope that his relationship with her wasn't that serious yet. But no, she had been packing her things in. Yes, everything including her makeup and the biggest of boxes. Now we all know that if a girl brings all her makeup somewhere, she doesn't plan to leave. Now, I thought he had some respect left for her marriage, but I soon discovered that he actually had no respect for our marriage. Even though I dated other people, I never lived with them or let them move in with me. But he didn't do the same thing. He sent me divorce orders 1 minute, then he brought his girlfriend the next minute. Now that really got me very angry, and I won't even lie about it. Okay, keys say that part of everything is a little tolerable, and that's no reason to exaggerate. But I just couldn't get my mind off the fact that he actually let her move in fully. Do you know what that meant? He sent me divorce papers, and then his girlfriend moved in the very next day. That meant that he was serious about her and she was serious about him. It automatically meant that the both of them planned on staying together long term. Okay, bad news, but it was more of a horrible news because he wanted to move in a girl into the house I wanted as part of my alimony if the divorce happened. Yes, I had planned out what I wanted for my alimony if we got divorced, which we did. Now, how did I end up with nothing? Well, Gregory is a freaking fool, first of all, and I hope karma meets him and hits him harder than life. I don't mean to bring in that much negativity, but I just can't resist it. I'm just really angry about a lot of things, and writing this is making me relive everything all over again. Now, that's not the best situation for one to find themselves, so don't get shirty with me. So when I saw the girlfriend, who is the intruder in the story, I ignored her and tried to walk into the house. I guess she already knew who I was because she didn't even bother stopping me from getting in the house. I expected some sort of confrontation, but there was none at all, and that made me hate her immediately. It was obvious that she was trying to act like a jive girlfriend when she was literally just like anyone else. She hated me whether she showed it or not, and I knew it. The feeling was mutual anyway, so I didn't care to speak to her or confront her too. Instead, I diverted most of my attention to the so-called husband who is now my ex-husband. Can you believe that I found Gregory in our matrimonial room making space for his girlfriend? When I packed, I left some of the shoes I couldn't take with me, and even some of my personal items. I thought I would be back after 2 months initially, but when things didn't work out like that, I couldn't go back and take them, so I just decided to forget about them. Now that brings me to the part where I noticed that Gregory didn't even keep any of the stuff I left behind. I actually thought I would come back and still see those things, but I met one of them at all. Another shocking thing was the fact that he sent me out of the bedroom immediately when he noticed that I had come to the bedroom. He sent me out like I was just nobody who had no right to the bedroom. It felt weird because I once lived there, right? I felt I had some sort of right there, but there was none. Now, to make matters completely worse, his girlfriend finally came to the bedroom, ignored me, then sat on the bed and acted like she didn't notice my presence at all. Of course, it was a very difficult situation to behold, and I couldn't even believe it. Gregory also refused to even tell her to acknowledge my presence. Instead, he embarrassed me and sent me away like I was just a common tout. I got really angry and got straight to business. I told him I didn't like the fact that he sent me divorce orders just out of nowhere. I didn't like it at all, but he refused to listen. I asked him if he at least got the alimony ready, and he laughed in my face and told me I was leaving the marriage with nothing. I couldn't even believe my ears at that point, and I told him we would meet in court. The fact that he even had the audacity to say all those hurtful things to me in front of his girlfriend was what made me understand that the marriage was over, and he had no respect for me. So I decided to forget about the marriage and focus on getting the house. I knew the house was worth a lot of money, and so I thought it would be the best option for me to just get the house even if I was going to walk out of the marriage. I hired a lawyer and got everything ready because I was literally ready for war, and I wanted to fight as much as I could. But I got the shock of my life when I was later asked to be the one to pay Gregory's spousal support. That sounds weird, right? But trust me, that's exactly the situation I found myself in. I couldn't even believe it. Do you know that Gregory and his lawyer convinced the court that at the time of our separation, he was the spouse with no source of income, and I was the working spouse with income? He had his sack later and his finances to back this up. When my lawyer tried to argue that Gregory was already rich enough to actually give me spousal support, his bank statements showed that he still wasn't working and had no money. Gregory refused to collect his payout from the company just because he knew I would come for alimony. He hasn't been paid fully yet, so technically he's seen as unemployed. He doesn't work yet and is just a shareholder. He convinced the court that his girlfriend was the one finding his car and expenses. The both of them had planned everything out. He was so smart that he knew I would surely ask for something. He also sold the house and had documents to prove that he sold the house after I left him, so he could use the money to fund his business ideas that ended up not yielding results. He also has the papers I had sent and showed he signed them, but I never showed up. Yes, there was really evidence that he sold the house, but to who? His friend. The court has no business with that, but from the band on the document, I knew he sold the house to his friend. Of course, that was just his way of getting back at me. After the divorce, I know he'll get his ownership back. It was just a well-planned stunt. It finally made sense why his friends tried to warn me a year ago. They knew he was planning to leave me broke. Maybe he had started earning by then, so they wanted to warn me, but I didn't listen. My lawyer was able to help me out and prove I was struggling, so I just ended up giving him $2,000. Since I left him for 2 years, I was made to look bad, and there were medical reports of him being admitted to the hospital after I left, and I had to pay damages because he made it look like I stole from him and made him broke. Yes, Gregory did all these to me. I hate him with everything in me, and I know he'll regret it one day.